One of the things I learned with Goodlife, not every brand is meant to be $100 million business, and you get caught up. Like I said, if there's a lot of money in the world. There's a lot of brands that have access to endless amounts of capital for whatever reasons, whether it's, self-funded, whether it's just, having the right connections, and you can create a brand that doesn't have to be authentic. That's not my goal with Cacio Pepe. It wasn't my goal with Goodlife. I think with Goodlife, we got caught up with trying to keep up with the Joneses. This brand is doing 50 million. This brand is doing 100. This brand just raised at this valuation. We need to be doing that. We need to roll out retail. We have to chase that carrot to be $100 million business. I think you lose authenticity if that's what you're going after. For me, I would rather have a $20 million business that's profitable, that has an authentic story, that has a real following, that you can really grow into a true lifestyle brand over the course of years. But you have the guts to the business. You have a real story that creates loyalty.
An entrepreneur straight out of New York City, Michael Chernow. What's cracking?
The pursuit for a perfect t-shirt. Chris Molnar, you are a friend, you're a fellow founder, and you have built two incredibly awesome brands. One brand that my closet is lined with, which is Goodlife clothing. And now you have stepped away from that after a decade to create Cacio Pepe, which I'm so fired up about. My closet is now lined with Cacio Pepe. But when you called me to tell me that you were creating something new, I obviously was super inspired, because I personally believe that you have figured out the perfect t-shirt. There's no other t-shirts I like to wear. What does that mean to you? Is that kind of the thought process when going into this business, in the men's apparel business? Like, is that the number one for the brands that you've created? Is that kind of like the mission?
Yeah, I mean, you have to go back a long ways. My career in the industry has spanned 25 years, and I worked for brands like Hugo Boss and John Varvatos and Michael Kors and some smaller stops in between in the contemporary market. And I mean, we're talking, 15, 20 years ago at this point, when the basic t-shirt market is nothing like it is today. Back then, it was all designers or big brands pushing out t-shirts as a part of their overall assortment. I remember, when I first did Goodlife back when I was like 25, I found a factory outside of Pennsylvania that was doing American-made t-shirts that I started working with, because I saw a void in the market where there were really no good basic t-shirts. Everything had lame branding on it. Nothing was cool, right? And so the industry just has changed so much. It was like American Apparel was like your only option for somewhat of a better basic type brand. And it was like, there was just Gildan and, Hanes beefy tees and things like that. So the industry has changed so much. When we first started Goodlife, it was all about creating like a perfect t-shirt that was different from some of the other brands already in the space. Without naming names, things were boxy, ill-fitting, too European fitting. There was just all these different reasons why there wasn't good product out there. And that's how Goodlife really started to break through, is because we were offering better product, better price value, because we were making things domestically, and it was a small, scrappy business, not these big bloated brands that are fighting for margin with department stores. So that's how Goodlife started, with that product. Fast forward to Cacio Pepe. You can go on Instagram and you can get hit with 50 different brands in a day that are telling you they make the perfect t-shirt. It's totally different from how it was, 10, 12 years ago when I started Goodlife. So it's a completely different market now. And now, there's a lot of good product out there. I think some brands have probably knocked off Goodlife with the scallop hem t-shirt that we started doing in fall 2013. I can name 10 brands right now that also have a curved hem t-shirt. It's more about, you have to have great product, but you also have to have an authentic message and a story and compelling content. It's not just about putting good product in the market because the competition is just so fierce.
Let's talk about story for a little bit, because I agree with you. I think story is such a critical component to business that a lot of people just disregard or don't necessarily think is important. And especially like the finance guys that are looking at a business, you know, they don't necessarily consider your story as a you know, compelling reason as to why your business is valuable. Mm-hmm. What do you think about story, and what is the story?
I mean, again, I think it depends on what your vision is for your brand, and if you really do have authenticity to your brand to start with. And that's really where a story comes from. There's plenty of brands in the market that, however their path to having capital, they have a blank check to acquire customers. They can use kind of gimmicky marketing and, you know, and polished content to get people in and acquire customers, and continue to just, you know, pump content and write blank checks to digital marketing. And that's a way to build a brand for sure. There's definitely a number of those brands out there. I think the story aspect, like I said, it comes down to like, do you have authenticity to, you know, how you created the brand, who's speaking about the brand, like yourself and some of the other guys on board with the new project. You know, it really starts from having the building blocks of authenticity, I think.
But how important do you think authenticity is really? Like, I think that for guys like you and I, it resonates a lot, right? Authenticity. You can kind of see right through BS, right? Like, you can never like truly, like we were talking about this last week when we were here, like you cannot remake a true vintage shirt. You can't do it. Anybody that sees that knows that it's a new vintage shirt. Like you can't recreate it. But there's way more people selling recreated vintage t-shirts than there are people selling vintage t-shirts, sure. Right? So like, how important do you think in the grand scheme of things, if your priority is like money, how important is authenticity?
I would say not important, you know, but there's different levels. You know, one of the things I learned with Goodlife, not every brand is meant to be $100 million business, you know, and you get caught up. Like I said, if you know, there's a lot of money in the world. There's a lot of brands that have access to endless amounts of capital for whatever reasons, whether it's, you know, self-funded, whether it's just, you know, having the right connections, and you can create a brand that doesn't have to be authentic. You know, that's not my goal with Cacio Pepe. It wasn't my goal with Goodlife. I think with Goodlife, we got caught up with trying to keep up with the Joneses. You know, this brand is doing 50 million, this brand is doing 100, this brand just raised at this valuation. You know, we need to be doing that. We need to roll out retail. We have to chase that carrot to be $100 million business. I think you lose authenticity if that's what you're going after. For me, I would rather have a $20 million business that's profitable, that has an authentic story, that has a real following, that you can really grow into a true lifestyle brand over the course of years. But you have the guts to the business. You have a real story that creates loyalty. I think like I said, I think it just goes back to like what your real goals are with the business. Do you want to just make crappy product in some subpar factory overseas and charge a lot less for it than you could if you're making really high quality product with a much more transparent supply chain, right? For example. I mean, so it just depends.
When you think about entrepreneurs, I love that you said not every business is meant to be $100 million business or $1 billion business, or, you know. I think when people think of entrepreneurship today, they're not thinking about the business that's doing, you know, $15, $20 million in revenue that could sell for $30 to $40 million, maybe $50 million, which, by the way, is a ton of cash.
Yeah, it's life-changing.
It's a ton of money.
Yeah.
Right? When people think of like entrepreneurship today, what they're thinking are the 400, 600, you know, billion dollar deals that are happening. Now, I believe, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, there are different kinds of entrepreneurs, right? There's creative entrepreneurs, more artistic focused entrepreneurs, more like entrepreneurs, chances are like you and I that really think about this as like an art, right? Like it has to resonate.
Mm-hmm.
Artistically, it has to resonate. Creatively, it has to resonate with the authenticity, and the like the fabric of the brand is so important, right? And then there are entrepreneurs who are more managerial, right? That they're just like, oh, well, like I get the creative side, I get the finance side, like we're gonna put the right people in place and we're gonna sell this company, and And then there are the billionaires, or the wannabe. The gunning for billionaires, who are the shrewd, difficult, like will do whatever it takes to get to $1 billion. Like, how do you feel about that kind of like? Do you believe that is realistic in the sort of different genres of entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think those buckets are pretty accurate from what I see. And, we're in New York, right? So, you're kind of in the land of anomalies here, where I have friends who have companies that are worth, billions of dollars, that have made hundreds of millions of dollars. And you see people trying to chase that. And so, I'm certainly not the shrewd billionaire, unfortunately. Those guys are a lot smarter than me. I'm definitely falling to more of like the creative.
But would you want to be like? Is that
no? It's not part of my fabric, right? Like if Goodlife did become $100 million business, and I stepped in shit and got that check, it would have been a result of 10 plus years of hard work too. But that would have been great. But I think I'm definitely more of like the creative entrepreneur. I think ideally, I think to be an entrepreneur. And I have elements of it currently on the team. I'm more of the creative, even though it's a blessing and a curse. I can do the business operations and the creative. But I think what's happening, and the most successful companies, have the creative juice, but then they also have the operational know-how. Some people are just cut out to be in that kind of operational position. And then some of it just comes with experience. Have you done this before? And it's like, and I think, similar to your track, you've seen a lot of it already. So you have that operational know-how based off of, scars and licks you've taken.
You're 10 weeks in, roughly. Let's just call it 3 months on launching a new business. Really interesting time. Let's talk about what it feels like to be 3 months in on a new venture, coming off of a 10-year run with a business that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, every day is a roller coaster. It's it's fascinating. Every business is different. It doesn't matter if it's the same space or a completely different industry. Every business is different because it starts at different points, and this is it's a global world. Everything can affect, people's buying behaviors, especially when you're talking about clothes. Clothes are a luxury. Yes, everyone needs clothes, but everyone doesn't need to be spending money on $75 t-shirts, right? So everything going around the world around you is going to dictate, potential, performance of the brand, regardless if it's good or not. So obviously, like you said, it's a crazy time right now. So yeah, every day is a roller coaster. You have good days and you're really excited, and then you have a bunch of returns, which are going to happen to every company, and you're like, shit, man, this is frustrating. I think it's very different doing it from when I did it 10 years ago. Originally, I was so naive, and I'm like, all right, I guess that's how it's going to go. I got to figure it out. And now you're way less naive, and you're like, it's also a blessing, of course, because you can pick up the pain points right away and pivot. But the pain, you feel it right away because you're like, I remember that. That's really frustrating. But then you have the experience to kind of pivot, and you have the instincts to to move in a different direction.
Do you feel, I know what it feels like to launch a new business, and I know that I know the importance of feeling like you have some sense of boundary in your life, right? Being able to delineate between the business and personal life. How important right now, how important is your health? in the grand scheme of things when launching a business from scratch?
I know it's more important than the emphasis I put on it, unfortunately. There's no participation trophies, so it's like this world is a results-based environment, especially what I'm trying to do, right? You need wins, and you got to show investors and potential investors and anyone supporting you that this is working. So it's like you really have to balance like sacrificing your mental health, your physical health, relationships. It's tough. I mean, you know what I mean? So it's like everyone can say mental health and physical health is so important, and here's all the tools you need to be doing to implement that. But at the end of the day, it's like it's also sink or swim. It's also like, all right, so is it working? Are you doing everything you can to make this business work, to create value for your current investors, entice future investors? So it's like, it's a very tough, line to straddle, where it's like, can I get up at 5 and start working and not work out that day and eat like shit because I'm just like, I got to get all this stuff done, and then if you actually get up and kind of do things more methodically, you might feel better mentally, but are you like, are you getting to everything that you need to do to move the business forward, So yeah, it's tough.
I'd love to talk about what your morning looks like now, and then what it looked like, a year and a half ago before you started Cacio Pepe.
Obviously you wake up with a lot more kind of like anxiety, it's just natural. But I think before getting into that, I think the biggest thing too is that we all share the same pain points. You see all these memes online about jumping off a cliff and building a plane on the way down is like kind of like, similar to being an entrepreneur, right? So everyone shares those pain points. So I think it's important to also remind yourself that like, you're not the only one going through this stuff. I get up as early as possible with getting enough rest. I'm not making myself get up at 5:30 if I haven't slept, 7 hours, because then your day is ruined regardless. But I try and get up as early as possible. I'm much sharper in the morning. It's just how I am. Hydrate. Been drinking these electrolytes lately before I have my coffee. But then I have coffee. I do like to chill out for a little bit, catch up on my Sports Center. And then, it's kind of like it's mental notes or even writing it down of like, all right, what do I have to do today? What are deadlines that have to get done versus like, what are things later in the day that I can do? So at the end of the day, you're hitting the priorities and then, having like a to-do list of stuff.
Like a top 3 and then like ongoing to-dos.
Right. Yeah. And then, I try and move, whether it's, walk and lift, if it's run, it's, any type of movement or workout. I try and, if I don't do it in the morning, I just lose my day. So that's kind of like a morning routine. So
you've sustained even in this, because look, I think the point that I'm trying to get to here is that like launching a business is fucking hard, and it will absolutely 100% throw you, no matter who does it, no matter how successful or difficult it is. Launching a business is really hard, and it's not everybody is meant for it. Mm-hmm. And there's no doubt that like it will derail a lot of what you thought were priorities in your life, because it's not even like the amount of work that needs to get done from my experience. It's just the amount of brain space that the business occupies. It just, even if you're not like working, your brain is occupied. Your brain is sure fully occupied. And unfortunately, it's hard to see past that in a lot of, like, especially in the first couple of years, right? Because you're just like, there's never, I said to my wife, so Creatures of Habit is going to celebrate 4 years in a few months in August, right? And I was sitting down, I've been working from home a little bit more recently because the weather's been nice. My office is a little gloomy. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm going to work from home. I'll figure out a few things. I've been working from home anyway. my wife walked in yesterday and I'm sitting at the table and I just looked up at her and I was like, it's crazy that every platform that I'm on, email, Slack, social media, text, all of it, there is never a moment in time where I don't switch over to another one and look at it and have 45 things to do on each platform. All of them. I could sit at a desk and work from now for the next 10 years without stopping.
Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah.
You could and will find things to do, right? So do you find, so I'm stoked to hear that you have continued to make fitness a priority in the morning. I think that a lot of people, when they're in this time, specifically in this early day, they like push that to the side. And I think that is the mistake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a work in progress. Certainly not perfect. No one is. I was recovering from foot surgery I had. So, it's not every day. I try to as a priority, especially now it's warmer in New York and like I'm past, the recovery aspect. And I think it's am I going to do CrossFit every morning at 6 a.m.? No. I mean, it's like, I think, I think there's levels to it. I think the biggest thing as I've gotten older too, it's like just movement.
Just move.
It's movement. So yesterday I got up and I'm like, I don't want to work out today. I'm sore. I just don't feel like it. So I put on a vest and I just walked the High Line, which is like a 2-mile loop. And, there's you're moving, you're getting your steps in, you got a weighted vest on. And was it the most strenuous workout? No, but I breathed and I worked through some stuff and it's like, it just helps you kind of move through the day way better.
And by the way, I think that rucking in general, and I'm not calling out rucking, but calling out movement for sure, especially as we get older, right? Mm-hmm. Dude, I don't need every workout to be an absolute savagery. It just doesn't have to be. I used to think so. And I used to be injured all the time too. Now, as I'm getting older, I'm like, I don't need to feel death by the end of my workout every time. And I think people sleep on rucking. If all you did was ruck 5 days a week and ate well, gravy, you'd be in great shape.
I love it. Yeah, it's got just a little bit of, there's a little bit of element of difficulty to it. It's 30-pound vest I'm walking. It's not insanely heavy, but it's heavy enough to tax you.
Totally.
Versus just walking.
Totally.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think and so anybody listening, rucking, in my opinion, I think it's wonderful. I want to just touch on, have you given yourself a start and an end time in work right now? Or are you just
No. No, when Goodlife was pumping, we had an office with 10 people and there was a corporate culture and there was even if I got in early before everyone else, you're hamming it up all day, everyone's working and then 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock computers get closed for the most part. Now I'm I have a team, but we're all over the place because we're remote and we're being scrappy and I even don't even have a co-working space currently because it's just I'm going to stay scrappy. I can travel, I work from home, etc. So my schedule's all over the place and it's probably not ideal. I need more structure, I think. But I think the biggest thing I've learned too, it's and I'm working through it every day is just don't be so hard on yourself. It's what you're trying to do is very difficult and, you can always be better, but it's you kind of just got to move through things as they come at you.
Let's talk about all the exciting shit. How what is exciting for you about this new business, Cacio Pepe?
I love creating, it's in my blood. That's the biggest thing for me. But what I'm most excited about, and like I said before, I mean, there's so much competition in the marketplace. There's a lot of good product. There's some crappy product. There's good product, people copying each other, innovative stuff. And I don't claim to have, I haven't reinvented the wheel. But what I'm most excited about is the story, the authenticity, and the transparency of the brand. That's important to me, but also the ability to create community is what we're starting to see some success with these run clubs we're doing. So we're doing like these 5K runs. Brian, who is also involved with Cacio Pepe as a co-founder, and his connection to fitness and wellness made the idea of these run clubs kind of come to fruition. Run clubs are a huge thing right now with Satisfy Running and Bandit Running here in New York, Diplo's Run Club. Everyone has like a run-oriented community. So our idea was to take the run club idea, but combine it with the ethos of Cacio Pepe, which is about simple pleasures and simple things, that you can live a well-balanced life and run and work out, but then you can also sit down to a bowl of pasta with your friends and family. And it's not this like straight edge, we don't eat carbs and all we do is work out. It's like, it's a true mashup of the two, which is really how I think everyone should live their life, is being health conscious and fit, but also being able to sit down and enjoy a bowl of pasta. So these run clubs are a big success so far. We're doing these 5K runs, not a race. And then we're partnering with an Italian restaurant after to sit down and have pasta together.
That's fun.
And so to answer your question, that's what I'm most excited about, is that I think in this day and age, you have to be able to build organic community. You have to be able to come up with experiences that grow that organic community. And if you don't, I think your brand is not going to get to where you want it to go, at least in the space we're in.
What like stuff that's coming down the pipe? Like what's exciting to you? Like what are you looking forward to right now, apparel wise?
With us, it's a little nerdy, but it's like watching sales come in and understanding what people are liking.
What are they liking?
I mean, obviously our t-shirts are number one. It's what I know. I think I've exhibited my ability to create, a fantastic,
especially this t-shirt,
yeah,
which you gave me last week,
yeah.
Which is this new fabric that you're dropping this summer, right?
Yeah, that's the organic hemp cotton. So everything we're doing with Cacio Pepe is, sustainable, as in, natural fibers or recycled synthetics. So that is an organic hemp cotton. So everyone knows what hemp is. And then mixed with the softness of cotton, it almost has like a linen feel to it.
Totally.
Like a dry, lightweight linen feel, but it's also super soft because it's blended with the cotton. And it's just like an epic t-shirt for summer.
I mean, I've been wearing it kind of around the clock over the last few days, between this one and the black one you gave me. The best part of it is that, like, as you wear the shirt throughout the day, it just kind of like forms to the amount of activity that you're actually like exuding in the shirt.
Similar to the Goodlife, I like a slim fitting t-shirt personally. Obviously the trends have changed also big time over the last few years, where people are wearing, I don't want to say baggier, but boxier clothing.
Boxier shirts.
So
yeah.
we do have a boxier fit as well, but
which was my favorite before this one.
Yeah. So what I always say is with our fabrics they're going to fit a little slim when you first put it on. But then your body heat and your movement, it relaxes the fabric, it opens up. And when I used to travel around to Nordstrom stores pre-COVID, I went to like 80 Nordstrom stores in 2 years. And, I would say when you first put it on, the customer puts it on, it's going to be slim. It's going to be tight in the arms. It's going to be tight in the chest. But it's better to be slimmer when you first put it on and then have it open up as you wear it. In an hour, it's going to feel looser versus putting it on and it's already kind of loose and baggy. Obviously, like I said, trends have changed a lot and guys are definitely wearing looser fitting clothing now. So you have to have options for them. but yeah, I personally like stuff that like opens up as you wear it.
Your father was deeply embedded in the world of fashion. He brought Hugo Boss to the States, didn't he?
Yep. Yeah. Late 70s.
And so you were obviously influenced by your pops.
Yeah.
Did you always know like that you were going to be in fashion from like?
No, not at all. Yeah, my dad brought Hugo Boss to the US in the late 70s. So he was basically like a pioneer in the fashion industry in the US, opened up Barney's and Neiman Marcus and Mario's and like, every premier store in the US he basically introduced Boss to. Dressed Miami Vice, Rocky IV, they're wearing Hugo Boss sweatshirts. So he put a lot of that together. So yeah, I had so much exposure to fashion at a young age, but I had no idea what it meant to work in fashion. It's like, I don't think most people where I grew up in New Jersey even knew what my dad did, because it's like, so you're an executive at a fashion brand? Like, that was so long ago. Obviously now it's much more commonplace, but I remember, I'd wear like, I remember the first t-shirt he brought me, he was at Pitti Uomo in Florence, like the the seasonal fashion fair trade show. And he brought me home a CP Company t-shirt. I still wear CP Company outerwear today, but it was like this sick, like I remember it was like this rust colored kind of PK t-shirt. And I was like obsessed with it. I was like probably 13 and I'd wear it with like Lucky brand jeans and like my Lava Andre Agassi's. And I was just like, I was combining the two, but it was really like a high-end Italian t-shirt. So I already kind of became obsessed with like premium t-shirts and knitwear. But no, I had no idea that I wanted to get into fashion. I went to college, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, started landscaping that summer after freshman year, and that wasn't it. I was like cleaning other people's yards. I thought I was going to get tan and get a workout all summer. And I'm like, I don't want to be doing this. And I called my dad and I was like, do you think you could put a word in at the Hugo Boss office in New York? I was like, I want to work there. I was lucky to have that connection for sure. But, I started an unpaid internship there the next week. And, it was like my first foray into really seeing what goes on in the world of fashion. So,
wow.
Yeah.
It's so funny, you talk about, I'm assuming that's like you're in your teens, that's like early 90s, right? Like in those early teen years. How old are you?
I'm 45.
45, so we're the same age. And I just remember, specifically growing up in Manhattan in New York City, I was kind of like in the epicenter, I think in that like late 80s and all of 90s time frame. That was like a real moment in subculture, but subculture in New York was culture, right? And New Jersey close, right there, right? Like we're basically seeing the same shit. New York City in the 90s was like, now fashion right now today feels like the 90s. It feels like they've taken everything back from the 90s and they've just repurposed it today. And I just remember growing up in those years, and for whatever reason, I'm assuming you and I are, again, very similar in this creative, artistic kind of way of looking through our eyes. But I've always been passionate about fashion, and not high fashion, just style.
Right.
Like it's always been something that I've just like paid close attention to, always. And so when I was in my teenage years, like there was a massive Polo Ralph Lauren era, right? where like Polo Ralph Lauren was just it. Mm-hmm. It was just it. And I remember being so like, if I wanted to wear that gear, I just had to work for it. I had to work for it. And I remember very specifically being like, I want Jordans, I want Polo. I kind of was like not like a Nautica Tommy Hilfiger person, but I just remember that I was drawn to that. And I still fucking am. And your brands have been such like an easy, I think the way I would describe and how I've described your brands over the years is just like, it is the best high quality basics. You know, it's similar to Creatures of Habit Meal One. You find something that works really well. You know it's quality. You know it's made with the best of intentions and ingredients. And you just draw a line through that part of your life. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to worry about, like, I know I get something from Cacio Pepe. You send me a box of something. Like, it just works, right? Like, I don't have to think about, where am I going to get my fucking favorite, like, where are those t-shirts? Like Goodlife t-shirts, shorts, joggers, hats. Cacio Pepe, same shit. Draw a line through that part of life. Imagine being able to just have a bunch of those things checked off in your life where you're just like, I don't need to think about that. That is taken care of. It's amazing, dude. It's amazing.
Thank you.
And I think sitting here across the table from you, right in the fucking pit of early day launching a business, and you're sitting here, right? Yeah. I'm sure your brain is
I'm alive.
Yeah. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come and sit.
Thank you very much for having me.
I know these times, even if it's a 45-minute sit down, is kind of like, I got shit to do. So I appreciate it.
No, look, I mean, it's also sitting here, it's like, it's good to talk about this stuff too. It's like, if you keep it all in, it's got nowhere to go, and so it's like having like a break to actually talk about how things are going, or get your mind off of like the daunting to-do list I have when I leave this, studio. It's good for you. So
is there anything, two last things. One, it's a little early to ask, but why not, right? We're friends, and we've got a pretty awesome audience of entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. Right now, sitting here in this moment, if there's anything that you could have done or would have done differently with Cacio Pepe right now, have you been able to identify something that you would have done differently? This is where I think people really get value.
I think, it's a little early it's probably a little bit me beating myself up, and it's a little early, but, the brand is pretty hyper-focused in the beginning, but maybe I would have even made it even more hyper-focused because of of some of the early sales I'm seeing. We're hitting numbers and things are moving in the right direction, but it's part of my DNA, and it's like my instincts are immediately looking for, how to identify, it's not so much how I do things differently because the brand is so new, but it's more about identifying things you're seeing so that you can affect, the next 6 months.
For the audience that is wishing they were in your chair, that you just launched a business, this is your second one. Like, I know how hard it is sitting in your chair, but for the audience, they that are aspiring, they would give anything to sit in your chair, because you said you were going to do something, you put a team together, you did it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of us, especially entrepreneurs, forget, how hard it is. And I think it's just about starting and keeping your head down, right? And I think the biggest thing too is to don't compare yourself to other people or other companies or brands that you feel are doing things bigger, better, differently. It's like, just keep your head down and move forward.
Chris Molnar, you're the man. I appreciate you taking the time, dude. I can't wait to open up this box of stuff here.
That's right.
Where can people find you, Cacio Pepe? Obviously, support this man and the business, and pick up a couple of t-shirts. The t-shirts are off the. Also, these kicks, they just dropped ththese sneakers a couple weeks ago, and these things are flame.
I'm wearing the same color.
Super comfortable, cork insoles, so you can rock them without socks. which I love in the summertime. Where can people find you and Cacio?
We're online at CacioPepeBrand.com. We just dropped a little, like a little teaser collab with Emilio's Bellato. So you can get some branded Emilio's Bellato stuff down at the restaurant, which is like a precursor to a bigger collaboration we're doing with Emilio for this fall. We're doing some fun stuff in Montauk this summer. If anyone's just interested in the run clubs, follow us on Instagram, shoot us a DM. But right now we're online only.
Sick. You're the man, dude. I can't wait to see what happens with Cacio Pepe. First of all, I love the name. I love you. Product is off the chart, and I appreciate you coming, man.
Thank you for having me.
There you have it, guys. I'm just like I'm a sucker for a great T-shirt. I'm a sucker for a great T-shirt, and Chris knows how to make a great T-shirt. And I'm not joking when I'm saying that my whole entire closet is a blend of Goodlife T-shirts and Cacio Pepe T-shirts, because I've been collecting Goodlife shirts for years and years, and I probably have some of those shirts in there from 6, 7, 8 years ago that are still holding strong. And so, it's important. Quality basics, high quality basics in life in general, the essentials. It's so nice to have that locked up. It's so nice to have that locked up. And with a brand like Cacio Pepe, with the stuff that they're putting out there, easily lock that stuff up. Like how many guys do I know that are just like, man, I wish I just had the perfect tee. And I'm like, got that. Anyway, I love sitting down with entrepreneurs to talk about what, especially in the thick of it, in the belly of the beast, in the center of the flames. Chris is in it right now. And it's just fun to be able to sit down with a fellow entrepreneur, ask them the real questions, get the real answers, and share it with you guys. So, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you subscribing, giving us, if you like this podcast, share it with a friend, share it with a family member, share it with some of your homeboys. It would mean a lot to us. We're trying to grow this thing as big and bad as we can. If you're feeling generous, a 5-star rating and a review would be primo. And aside from that, guys, have a great week. Until the next one, y'all. Peace.